I like to show you a few things and explain you a few things about the new performance kit. This is everything you get with the performance kit. You have the two new stepper motors. These new motors doesn't have the cable like the old ones. They have a connector here. You get all the mechanical parts, the spacer, the supports, the screws. You have all the wirings here. You get a new power supply and also the new motherboard. This is an enhanced motherboard, especially designed for this, and it also have a few changes around. You get the two supports for the steppers, the new face for the back of the machine, and also a new backplate. So this is everything you need to install the new performance kit. Now let me show you something about the new board that some people ask me about this. Okay, this new board, as you can see, it's different from the older one. You have new connections here, and they are on a different position than the older one. For example, this upper position is for the limit switches. The sensor, the tool length sensor, is here. You have also the jumper to activate or deactivate this connector for the tool length sensor. The drivers now have these heat dissipators, and one of the changes that you cannot see at first glance if you don't have it, it's this connector here. This connector is a 30-volt connector that is designed for the LED bar. So on the last motherboard, the connector was here, and this time you only put the cables inside and you connect the regulator for the lights, and you can grab the power from here. So you can have the 4-axis module here, and the lights connected without any problems. Okay, so this is the new motherboard for the performance kit. And another thing that I would like to explain, on the manual, here you can see that you have 3 washers. The manual mentioned 3 washers, but on the assembly instructions you don't see that the manual shows you where those washers go. So those washers are for in case that you need to use them as spacers for the limit switches. If it's very rare that you need them, but the limit switches go here, and the switches will touch the arms of the gantry. So if the switches somehow, maybe because of the coating or from some other reasons, if the switches don't have the same distance from each other from the back plate, you will need to use those washers. Let me show you, they are very small. I have one here. They're very thin and very small. So these washers are used for that, in case that you need them. Most of the times you don't need them, but in case that you need them, they're here. So that's why you need the washers. These are the whole sensors that are used for synchronize the the machine, the cables. So you have everything here. Okay, another important thing about the assembly is that when you take out the back plate and the motor and everything, you need to make sure that don't lose these parts, because you are going to need these parts again from the current installation to make the new upgrade for the performance kit. Also, very important, before you take out the old board, before you disconnect everything, it will be a good idea to use maybe some masking tape or some labels to hold the motor cables, the stepper motor cables for the X and the and the Y, the X and the C motors, so you don't mix them, because the cables are the same. So probably you can mix the cables and you get the wrong connection. So it's better if you label those cables before you take out the old board, and you don't make any mistakes. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, another thing that you will find here on the assembly manual is that as the assembly manual for the Stepcraft is very well explained with 3D graphics, so it's very easy to follow. But on every step of the way you have these QR codes. If you put them on your cell phone and you scan these QR codes, they will open a video showing you the assembly steps for everything here. All the steps have these videos here on the QR, so it's gonna be much easier to follow and very straightforward to install. It's not complicated at all. Okay, another thing that is worth to mention is that the parts inside the bags are already checked before shipped and packaged. You can find these little piece of papers that are the quality control of Stepcraft, so you can be certain that all the parts are functionable, doesn't have any you don't have any problems with these parts, and the cables, everything was checked before you get them with the kit. This is important to mention, so you can be sure completely that everything is here. Okay, after you finish the assembly of all the components, you have the final assembly like this, and these screws are not tight, they are just snug a little, and we have those like that because we need them a little loose to make the final alignment. So the final alignment, it's very easy. You just need to home the machine so the arm will align the plate on its place, and then you can tighten the screws. So I'm gonna press home on the y-axis. Okay, now both of the sides are homed, and then at this point I can tighten all the screws. And this one is the last screw. Okay, now one final thing that you need to check is this. To see if the system and the moving parts are properly in place, you need to hold the arm of the gantry and try to move it back and forth, and you don't have any play at all here on this part. This is very important because if this part moves, then the machine will not work properly. So what you have to do if this part moves back and forth, if you move the arm and it's not rigid, well, it's easy. You need to take out these two screws, the big ones. Let me show you. Completely remove the screw. Now the upper one. And then you can take out the stepper motor. Don't take it out completely, you can leave it like this. And at this point you need to tighten the knot here. So the proper way to tighten the knot is first you need to turn this until you see the set screw here on the top. Then you need to use your Allen key the Allen key that you use to tighten this set screw. You have to insert the Allen key here, loose the set screw just a little bit because you're going to tighten this nut. So you're going to start to tighten this nut and use this as a lever. So tighten the knot, and then you have to try to turn this with your fingers, and it should be easily to move. If it's not moving easily, then something is wrong. And then you have to check if you don't have any play. Okay, now I'm moving it and I don't have any play, but then you have to tighten and move, tighten and move, tighten and move, until you don't have any play at all here. It doesn't move at all, this part, and you can move it very easily with your finger. That's the correct adjustment for this. At that point, then go to the set screw, and then you tighten the set screw with the Allen key, and that's it. Then you can assemble this part one more time. Okay, one important thing is if you cannot rotate this part, that's because the the motor have power. So you need to turn on the emergency switch, the physical emergency switch that is in front of the machine, to be able to move it. If you see, I cannot turn this because it has power. And if I activate the emergency switch, I need to move this a little. There. I activate the emergency switch on the front of the machine, and now I can turn it because it doesn't have any power. So when the motor don't have any power, you can align this again, side to side. Okay, be careful that the pins get inside the plastic washers supports. Okay, then I'm not tightening the screws, I'm just snug them. Because I need to home the machine first, so I need to release the emergency button. Okay, then I release the software. Let me check. I think I didn't release it. There. Sorry, I have a tight space here. Okay, so I reset the machine. Now I home the y-axis. Perfect. And then I can tighten the screw. Now tighten the bottom one. And that's it. That's how you tune this part. Remember, you have to do the same with the other side. One of the new features of the performance kit is the automatic emergency shutdown if the y-axis get bind at some point. So for example, if you are milling something and the on the axis bind, the sensors will detect that the motors are not running as they should, and the gantry will stop. One way to show you this is, for example, if I try to move the machine. Let's say I move like this. I can hold it with my hand and try to move it back, and it's very difficult to hold it. I cannot hold it with my hand. But let's say that I make it bind. So you see, it doesn't activate the limit switch. It makes an emergency stop. So the only way I could reset the emergency stop is that I need to activate the emergency stop on the front of the machine. Let me show you. This one I have to activate the switch, then I have to release the emergency switch, and after the emergency switch is released, then I can move the machine again. I can reset the software on the screen. and then I can move it. Now if I take this all the way to the back before it reaches the end, you cannot see it very well, but the opposite side of the y-axis on the other end, let me see if I can move the camera so you can see this. That side, it's closer than this one. Why? Because this one binds. So here is the other feature of the performance kit, and that's when you home the machine. If I home the machine, the first axis, the first arm that is going to touch the limit switch is the one on the back, but after it touches the limit switch, it will not stop on this side until it reaches the limit switch. So I'm going to home the y-axis and you're going to see that. You see? It first home that side and then home this side. So now both sides have the same distance and you don't have to worry about the alignment against the back of the machine. So that's another of the cool features of this performance kit. Now let me show you about the speed. Okay, now let me show you about the machine speed. Right now the configuration for the y-axis, I have it, let me show you the 3000 value, the standard value. So this is the 3000 value for the y-axis. It runs more smoothly. Now let me show you 4000. Okay, this is 4000. Now I'm gonna move up to 5000. Now there is something that you take in mind, that my machine is not clean right now. It's a little dirty, and if the machine binds or the movement gets desynchronized, the machine will stop with an emergency trigger. Okay. So this is 5000 and I can increase this to 6000. Okay, there. The machine probably bind or it do something, so I cannot reset the machine because it activates emergency switch. So I need to push the emergency switch, then release the emergency switch, and now I can reset on the computer. So I'm going to return to the default value for 3000, and then I'm going to home the y-axis. Yep, this side looks like binds a little for somehow. Well, basically that's all the information. I'm going to show you later a few tests with the machine cutting, some feed rates, and some more advanced performance on the machine now working. But you can see that the torque is much better on the y-axis. I can barely stop the machine with my hand. Okay, have fun with this. Take care. See you.